I wanted to talk quickly today about a few different points that I always keep a track of every time I race, either on Zwift or in real life. Obviously some of them apply more to real life racing than Zwift racing, but I thought I'd share them with you today because a lot of us are getting back into racing now. Time trial is starting to happen again in England, and of course a lot of you are racing on Zwift and you have season 3 of the WTRL coming up. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it, leave a comment down below. It really helps the video out a lot. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first one is, how did it go? And I usually bullet point all of my answers for these because it keeps it very simple. How did it go? What happened? Very brief overview. Was there any attacks? What was the weather like on the day? How were you feeling? What was the general consensus? How did you feel when you woke up that morning? These very overall general feelings. Next up, we delve a little bit deeper and we look at what went well. Now usually 9 times out of 10 you look at a race and you're like, well, you know, this didn't go well, this didn't go well, didn't feel this. You always have to find something that did go well, even if it's one thing. And for a lot of time, for me, I always pinpoint the one thing that went for me generally comes down to something that I could control. And by doing that, I know that it's something I can keep coming back to and control. You know, if the breakaway went and I missed the breakaway, a positive is that I missed the breakaway, but I didn't get dropped from the group I was in. Oh, okay, so the next thing for me is always like, what am I most proud of? Like, if I put myself in these shoes, if I was writing, you know, an Instagram caption, or if I was going home and telling somebody, you know, what happened, what was the one thing that I did very, very well that I would be most proud of? It's that sense of achievement, is what didn't go so well. And it's important to spend a bit of time on this, because you don't have to be sad about the things that didn't go well. You don't have to be, you know, extremely self-critical. Some things are very obvious, you know, what didn't go well. Maybe I didn't feel very well. Maybe, you know, I did miss that breakaway. Maybe I attacked too much. There's always things that you can be very harsh on yourself on, but remember, don't be too harsh. For me, when I was racing, a lot of the times, the things that didn't go well was stuff like not being in the right position at the right time. But it's very easy to say that because at the end of the day, in a road race at least, a lot of stuff is out of your control. Like, everybody can be at the front, everybody wants to say they want to be at the front, but being at the front is another thing altogether. So positioning was sometimes one of those things, but you have to remember that sometimes the things you're going to note down as the things that didn't go so well are going to be things that are out of your control, and they're part of racing. See, the thing is, guys and girls, there's no right or wrong answer to any of these. There's no, you know, right time to do them, or, but I tell you one thing, like, you know, when I was racing and I knew I'd be racing like the same race again the following year, having these notes on Training Peaks or wherever it is you save them, you know, are a massive benefit to when you then, you know, come back to the same race. And as a little side tip, instead of just like getting in the car after the race or whatever and filling out all of this pent up with emotion, I would fill out half of it and then stop. And then when I get home, you know, 5 hours later or whatever, recovery, all the adrenaline is gone, then I would fill out the rest of it. But I'd also look back at what I'd written and I might add to that, but in brackets, so that I knew that the bits in brackets I'd written later. When I wasn't so much thinking emotionally, I was thinking with logic. How well did I respond to things that were out of my control? A lot of us tend to focus on the things that are, or we assume are in our control, like the way we feel, how our legs should respond to a session. Like, just because you had a good session the day before, or the pre-race ride, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to feel awesome on race day, because you throw in nerves, you throw in getting ready with the teammates or something, and all of a sudden there's external pressures. When you're asking this question, it's more important to think, like, take your brain outside of your own body and think about how, say, one of your teammates would look at what you did that day. Areas for growth. These areas have nearly always been my weakness areas, but there's nothing to say that you can't focus your area of growth on a strength, particularly if you did something well that day. You don't have to choose to focus on a growth from that day that was a good thing or was it a bad thing, because throughout this little rundown you would have pinpointed a few from each of those, hopefully. So technically you'll have plenty to choose from. This question in particular kind of comes down to how you actually feel during the event. So this is kind of deep, but basically, if you're in the event, say if it's, let's use an example again of, like, I don't know, a road race. You're in the event, you're in the race, there's lots of things happening. Where is your concentration? Where is your mindset? Is it, this course is very, like, twisty and position is very important, and I'm a little bit scared of, like, if there's any crosswinds, exposed sections. I don't know if I'm going to be capable of holding on for the next time. These things, you can already tell, are very negative, and you have to start to wonder, are your thoughts and actions during the race actually affecting your efforts during the race? There's been plenty of times during the race where I've been feeling amazing, and I know I've been going well in training, come to a climb, and I know there's a climb on this course that's going to be decisive, and I come to the climb and I absolutely kill it. I get over in the front group because of my thoughts. Simple as that. Many of us have, like, pre-race rituals and things that we tend to do to prepare ourselves mentally and physically. It can be dynamic stretching. For me, it was always giving my shoes a quick clean. And these small, like, mental triggers are sometimes really important to help you get in the right frame of mind to attack the race. A personal favourite for the feedback loop is the nutrition strategy. How did I fuel for the race? I note down exactly what I ate, exactly what I didn't eat, because that's important to note as well. How I felt on this nutrition strategy. Is there something I can change about it? Is there something I can optimize, which is also very important? Let us know down below, because that's something that affects a lot of people, is that one point there, the nutrition strategy. Like, don't forget, you can use, like, equipment choices as well as part of that feedback loop, because for the most part, but of course, if that's something that is highly affecting your performances or your races, like hill climbing, for example, with gear ratios, then remember to make a note of it. Well, I've just done an absolute criminal effort there. After 3 hours of endurance riding, I did 20 minutes of lactate shuttling. That was, like, basically 50 seconds at threshold and 10 seconds 125% of FTP for 20 minutes. Oof. I'm supposed to meet Charlie somewhere around here. I said I'd meet her at Buryport Harbour, outside the new lifeguard facility. Aha! There she is! Enjoying the sun? It's nice, isn't it?
I had a headwind all the way here.
Yeah, I thought it might. It's a headwind all the way, but it'd be a nice tailwind all the way back now on the coast. Lovely! What do you reckon, Charles? One of the best days so far?
Yeah. It's nice to be outside.
It's a cracking day, isn't it?